Imagine being dragged from your bed and executed. You haven't committed treason, you haven't stolen anything. Your death warrant was signed because of a tiny bird, a pair of reading glasses, or the number 9. When the mind of a ruler holding absolute authority fractures, the weight of their internal obsessions falls directly on the people below. Millions of lives can be buried under the private delusions of a single person. Take the ruler of the Ottoman Empire, Sultan Ibrahim I. He spent his entire childhood locked in a single windowless room inside his palace, waiting to be assassinated. By the time he was crowned, his paranoia was total. Once in power, Ibrahim demanded every wall of his palace be lined with sable fur. He bathed constantly in imported perfumes. He even married a woman strictly because he heard she was the heaviest in the country, rewarding her with an entire province to govern. Then, at dinner one evening, he overheard a rumor. Someone whispered that a single concubine in his massive household had been intimate with an outsider. Ibrahim didn't launch an investigation or even ask for a name. He ordered every single woman in his harem to be tied inside a weighted sack. Hundreds of completely innocent women were thrown directly into the Bosphorus Strait. Unchecked power allows a fleeting moment of personal paranoia to result in a mass execution. In Turkey, they would forever remember him as Ibrahim the Mad. In China, Chairman Mao Zedong aimed his absolute authority at a creature that weighs less than a pencil. He declared an official state war on the sparrow. Mao believed the sparrow was an enemy of the state. Because the birds ate grain, he concluded they were stealing food meant for the revolution, and he mobilized the entire nation to exterminate them. Citizens were ordered to bang pots, shout, and drum loudly, non-stop for days. They destroyed nests and shot birds from the sky, following a policy of psychological warfare designed to never let the birds land. This chart shows the sparrow population collapsing to near extinction. Then, nature answered. Look at the immediate spike in the locust population. Without sparrows, insects swarmed uncontrolled, devouring every crop and causing the harvest to completely collapse. The resulting Great Chinese Famine became the deadliest in human history. Tens of millions of people starved to death because a dictator launched a war against a tiny bird. In Equatorial Guinea, Francisco Macias Nguema seized power and began a systematic rejection of modern civilization. Within a decade, 1/3 of the population was dead or in exile. He banned hospitals and Western medication, declaring that anyone who got sick should rely solely on prayer. He executed anyone wearing glasses, reasoning that corrective lenses were a sign of dangerous intellect. On Christmas Eve, his madness reached a surreal climax. He ordered 150 political enemies to be executed in a national stadium by soldiers dressed as Santa Claus, while a pop song played on repeat over the loudspeakers. In Haiti, a quiet doctor named Francois Papadoc Duvalier found a different way to weaponize reality. He convinced his country that he was no longer a living human being. Duvalier began dressing exclusively as Baron Samedi, the voodoo spirit of death. Speaking in a nasal whisper and wearing dark glasses, he told his people he was the spirit itself walking in human flesh. His secret police force, the Tonton Macoute, adopted this supernatural persona. Named after child-eating boogeymen, they burned victims alive and hung corpses from trees to convince citizens they were immortal. When Duvalier suspected the United States was plotting against him, he performed a public voodoo curse on President John F. Kennedy. After the assassination in Dallas, Duvalier publicly claimed full responsibility for the death. By replacing objective reality with superstition, Duvalier turned the entire apparatus of the state into a weapon of mystical terror. In Burma, dictator Ne Win's madness was governed by a personal obsession with numerology. His personal astrologer told him the number 9 was his pathway to immortality. Ne Win became so convinced of this that he decided the nation's entire economy was mathematically wrong. This diagram shows the overnight destruction of a nation's wealth. Ne Win erased all standard currency and replaced it with new bills in denominations of 45 and 90, simply because those digits added up to 9. Life savings were turned to ash by morning. The resulting protests became some of the largest in Burmese history, leading the military to shoot thousands of students in the streets. A personal superstition over a single digit erased an entire national economy, and it buried a democracy for generations. A rumor at dinner, a bird in the sky, a pair of glasses, a curse, a single number. These were the internal obsessions of men whose minds shattered under the weight of total authority. Surviving in these environments is an impossibility. You cannot obey a law that is dictated by a delusion. and you cannot outsmart a system that has abandoned logic. Absolute power reveals the deepest fractures of the human mind. Ordinary people pay the price for a madness they never shared, buried under the weight of a man who should have never held power.